Anna Wiejak, Institute of Schumann Thought, Schumann Optics magazine also. Today our guest on 3C's local government Congress is professor from Greece, Professor Zarotiadis, Grigoris Zarotiadis. Good afternoon, Professor.
Good afternoon. Thank you for speaking and discussing with me. It's an honor.
I know there are voices in Greece that Greece could be a kind of an open gate for 3C's initiative to Africa, to cooperation with Africa. How do you perceive this concept? How do you perceive this kind of idea?
It's a very positive and very well fitting to contemporary developments idea. Because what we call in the international literature and discussion the next big thing, which is the wider area of Africa, is something which is politically and economically very crucial for the global developments, especially, however, for the development within the European continent. And in that sense, due to the proximity culturally and also in terms of space of the southern part of Europe and especially of Greece, due to the proximity to the African continent, through Greece but also through other member states of the 3C's initiative, this corridor of collaboration that we are building could find a way out to the continent of Africa as well. So therefore I absolutely agree and support this idea.
What kind of cooperation would it be? We have a competition between United States and China in the case of rare minerals in Africa. Do you think Europe or 3C's initiative especially could be a good player in this game?
I don't think that our role could or should be to participate in this antagonism with respect to the control of raw materials. You are perfectly right expressing that. The Chinese influence in Africa is growing very hard and very strong. Similarly are the efforts from the other side of the Atlantic. I think that our role in the African continent is a role that has to do with our European acquis of democratization, of sustainable development, of fair trade relationships. We should mobilize more and in a brave way stronger funds towards the local development of African regions and African countries. We should try to play the role of a fair and of equal interest partner for the African societies. It's not so easy because we Europeans have upon our shoulders recognized crimes from previous time in this continent. Nevertheless, we still also have existing longer lasting links that we should use it in a democratic, socially fair, historically just way. I think that our role in the development of Africa is to play for the development of Africa, not for using any type of resources of the African continent.
You said about sustainable development goals and a kind of persuasion to Africans to receive it positively. But average African do not want sustainable development goals.
Because absolutely, you're right. Because for them, for their society, there are other things that at the present are more important. Surviving, having access to their own land. I was a year ago in Namibia supporting the local movement for recognition of the crime that happened to Namibian people, Herero and Namas, during the beginning of the 20th century. From the German colonization. So there are issues and people there still do not have access in their own land, even today. So I think that you're right, we have at the same time to work for the socially fair and historically just development of the African continent, of African people, this will in an indirect way help us also to develop, because it will enhance our relationships economically and culturally. But on the other hand, we shouldn't forget, and even if that is not so much important today for African people, we shouldn't forget the arts to sustainability. Even though we have to act for a socially fair development in the region, still we should keep the environmental and social sustainability in our minds. Africa is perhaps not the most dangerous area for environmental risks. Still, if we don't take it into consideration, it can become as well.
So, social sustainability, but without this neo-Marxist context, yes? Why I'm asking it? Because I was speaking with people from Africa, and they were really angry that sine qua non condition for receiving help from West, widely understood, or to cooperate with Western firms, Western corporations, is reproductive health. Mm-hmm. They cannot have the hospital built by Western people without having an access to abortion.
Yes.
And well, it's contrary to their culture, it's contrary to their beliefs, it's contrary to their interests. So, so that's my question.
That's why I said that our role in the opening discussion for the development of the African continent should be to act as a power of interest, as a power of political and economic involvement that considers the ideas and the rights and the willingness of the African people and African societies. What I mean thereby is that we shouldn't, and you are absolutely right, we shouldn't repeat mistakes of the past, in the sense that we tried to impose to the African continent a system of political functioning and socio-economic ideas that was completely foreign to the historical evolution of the culture and the socio-economic conditions of that continent. The functioning of the Western-type bourgeois states is not efficient in this region, in this environment. So therefore, yes, helping the development of Africa, but by considering at the same time the interest of the people there and the arts to sustainability in our global village.
In the context of Africa, I will have another question about migrants, because, well, these are not refugees in the definition of widely understood international organizations. So these are people from deserts, from different cultures, who do not understand mentally that they do crimes in Europe when they are behaving like in their own countries in Africa.
Migration being the result of refugee crisis or the result of economic and political crisis was, is and will be always a crucial characteristic of human history. Even if we would like to, we can't live without migration. Now, the thing is, however, on the one hand, how you efficiently and by considering also the needs of local societies, try to incorporate, to involve migrating populations in your countries. I absolutely agree that the values of the countries who receive migration shouldn't change in a violent way. On the other hand, the policy that we discussed just previously is actually the most important policy for a longer lasting counteract against forced migration, forced even in economic terms. If we succeed for the sustainable, in socio-economic and environmental terms, development of the next big thing of Africa, then I am sure that we will also succeed into marginalizing the migration trends that will exist over the whole history of humankind.
So to help in Africa, not in Europe.
Exactly.
What are the Greece experiences with migration?
Not so strong migration from African countries. We majorly have to deal with migration flows from ASEAN and Eastern Mediterranean area, majorly due to political concerns and problems. So we have a strong percentage of refugees within this mass migration, but also we do include, we receive also economic migrants and also environmental migrants. Now, Greece is actually dealing with a problem that we did not recognize in the previous years. It appeared in the second decade of the 21st century for us, and also we are dealing with a problem where there is a big mass of migrants coming to the country, but majorly the biggest percentage of them do not want to stay in the country. They want to move on to other destinations.
To Germany, especially.
Central Europe and Germany. So therefore we have to deal with this situation in collaboration with other members of the European Union. I am absolutely sure that migration is an issue where we need to collaborate a lot.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
My pleasure too.